Jake Crable, 24 linebacker Cam Hollabaugh, and 85 tight end Mason Williams. A few notes before we get started. Hollabaugh had a career high 2 takeaways today. Crable had a career high 3 sacks, along with a season high team defensive 5 sacks. And Mason had a career high of 93 receiving yards. We'll go for questions.
Andrew, with WB. Cam, for you, obviously. Sorry, did it 2 weeks in a row. Cam, for you, obviously, the interception, the pick six to start the game. Just what was going through your head when you caught that ball?
I just saw open field, and I was like, I got one man to beat. It was the tackle, and thankfully Mike Molinar, he threw a big block at the end, and after that it was just off to the races. And
then on the second one, when you had the sack and fumble, just what did you see on that play?
Well, that was we checked into empty, and that was our empty check. So I just blitzed off the edge. I saw his back, and I just ran as fast as I could and just hit him.
Charlie Fidel from the Post. Jay, for you, your 3 sacks tied the all-time single-game record for sacks in a game. Just what is your reaction to that? And then what does that mean to you as a guy that didn't really play defensive end until pretty recently?
For me, it's all like help to the guys around me. They weren't letting the quarterback get out much, and they were closing gaps, and it was just letting me get back there and make plays. So, like, really, I just appreciate them and my physical ability for sure.
Ethan Sargent, WAB, or excuse me, not WAB anymore, Total Media Sports. Mason, you obviously got the ball a lot. You've become one of Parker Navarro's favorite targets. What's the connection that you and him have built? Really started last year, and you've continued to build it through this year. Was there anything particular you worked on in the offseason that helped foster and build that connection between you and Parker a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, the connection with Parker has kind of just been a 2-year running thing. I didn't get to play very much over the spring, coming back from an injury and over summer. So a lot of time in the film room, trying to figure out what he sees, what I see, trying to gain that connection together. So that's pretty much been what it's been about. Yeah.
Mason, actually, if I can build on that, Owen Lipsher with the Post. You made a couple of short passes today into over 10-yard gains just with your ability to break tackles when Parker had to make a quick read. How important and how crucial do you think that is in the open field, and how much emphasis do you put on that in practice?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. Obviously, that's one of our key things as an offense, create broken tackles, and as a defense, it's, not to let up broken tackles. So that's obviously a huge thing that we emphasize here. So being able to break tackles and stretch short catches into long yardages is a huge facet to anybody's game.
Cam Robertson with the Athens Messenger. Cam, obviously when Jack went down against West Virginia, that elevated you into that starting role. And since then, you've been pretty great. You've forced 3 turnovers. Just can you talk a little bit about that mentality that you've had stepping up into a bigger role and being very productive?
Yeah, so being a guy that came from a school playing every snap, I kind of took I was a 2, so obviously took like a lesser role to start the season. So I was just kind of hungry the whole time, waiting for my opportunity. Like, I would get plays here and there. I had a couple plays against Rutgers, and then I didn't really play against West Virginia until he ended up getting hurt. And then I got in, and after that, it's kind of like it's an opportunity thing. You gotta make the most of your opportunities, because at this level, that's what it's all about. Because there's great players on the sidelines that don't get opportunities, and when you get your opportunity, you gotta make the most of it. So.
Evan Johnson, WAUB. Jay, was there something specific you saw on Bowling Green's offensive line that you were able to take advantage of to get your 3 sacks?
We had occasionally we had tells, but mostly just our guys making plays and all of our guys being playmakers. Most of the time we just let us loose and good things happen in the backfield.
Kind of building off that a little bit. Noticed you guys used a couple stunts today to try and manufacture pressure in a different way. How important is that to be able to change up the matchup sometimes along that offensive line?
It's a great switch up, honestly. Being able to get our DNs on the guards and our D tackles outside, it ultimately allows us to close the pocket. And like I said, with him, it just makes us make plays, and we're able to counter off of their mistakes and make plays in the backfield.
Mason, this is another game where the offense scored over 30 points. You're one of the guys, a returning starter from last year. Just how do you think the offense has gelled through the first 4 weeks of the season with some of the new guys on the offense?
Yeah, I mean, in the back end, with the receivers and everyone, we were kind of here last year. Chase Hendricks has obviously stepped up into a greater first 4 weeks has been unbelievable. You know, the communication, the physicality, everything that they bring, you know, in this game was a commitment that they made those first 4 weeks at trying to get better and everything.
Mason, a career day for you with the 93 yards, 71 of them coming after the catch. What do you think is the biggest thing that makes you so dangerous with the ball in space after you bring it in?
Yeah, like he said, you know, the ability to break tackles. You know, that's a huge thing. You know, when you only have one guy to beat, if you can break that tackle, then, you know, there's no one else. So you kind of just run free. That's a huge thing to other people on the team. You know, when people were worried about Parker Navarro and people were worried about Duncan and CA and Chase Hendricks, you know, there's usually only one guy on me just trying to get away from that.
For Cam or Jay, all 5 sacks came in the second half. You guys held them to under 70 yards in the second half. Just what changed from the first half to the second half defensively?
We just had to make a flip. We came out. I feel like we came out a little dry in the first half, but I mean, we were still getting the job done. But going into halftime, thanks to the guys upstairs and the guys with the headsets, they made a lot of adjustments, and we were able to come out and play ball. And our linebackers, like Cam and them, are making checks on the field and putting us in the best position. So with all that, like, we're able to see what we have in the first half and counter off of that and make big plays in the second half.
Cam and Jay, you guys had the defense just stuffed the stat sheet today. 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 4 turnovers. How important is it? Really, the word that I use to define is chaos. How important is it to cause that chaos and make things difficult for a quarterback who made a lot of mistakes today on the opposite side for Bowling Green?
It's important. Changing the line of scrimmage is key to winning, and it's great when they get 3 yards on first down and then we get a big sack and it's now third and 12 instead of 3rd and 6. That's a lot more manageable. So the guys in the back end, they're covering well, allowing the guys up front to get home, work their pass games, and then the TFLs, we're just getting after them, playing physical, and so we're playing downhill.
Question for any of you guys. There were turnovers on both sides of the ball today. When you guys are on the sideline, how do you keep yourself mentally in the game so when there are sudden change like that, you can go back out there and play at your best?
I would say it's preparation. On Fridays when we go into practice, adversity hits, and our coaches are big on adversity and how we bounce back from it. I mean, you could either lower your standards and you can pout about it, or you can come out and you can make another big play. And I feel like both offense and defense, if the defense gets scored on, the offense counters back and we get a touchdown. And if something bad happens on the offense, we come back and get a stop. So it's really a mutual thing and just all about adversity and overcoming it.
How big is it for any of you guys? How big is it for you guys to start 1-0 in MAC play compared to being potentially 0-1?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge thing. You know, the first 4 games of the season, while it's important, they don't really matter when it comes to being in the MAC. You know, this game shows everyone who we are. You know, it's our ability to set the tone for what everyone else is going to see in the MAC. So coming out here and being able to dominate, you know, the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball is just a huge tone setter for the rest of the MAC. They know that they have to run through us and that we're not scared to see anybody.
Today's victory marks our 2nd consecutive year opening MAC play with a win on the Frank specifically, and our 3rd consecutive starting the conference play 1-0. The Bobcats logged a season best 5 sacks on the game, with Jake Crable claiming 3 for a personal best. Cam's forced fumble marked the first forced fumble of the season, and Mason recorded a career high in receiving yards. Good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate it. First, just want to say how proud I am of our coaching staff. I think the job that they're doing developing our kids as people and, you know, emphasizing what we're trying to do culturally within the program, and just rebounding from last week, just energy-wise. You know, I thought our guys played with a lot better energy, intensity. They were more excited. They had a lot of fun. So really appreciate the job our coaching staff does with, you know, mentoring and developing the kids that are in this program. And obviously it's a great team win. I think there was, you know, tremendous things on all sides of the ball. And I think you could see as the game went on, you know, when our defense is playing really hard and they can knock out the run on early downs and get after the quarterback with 4-man rush, that is a fun group to be around and to coach and to have represent your school. So any questions?
Ethan Sargent, Total Media Sports. Coach, the word that I used a second ago when we were talking to your players was chaos on the defensive side, right? 9 tackles for loss, 4 takeaways, 5 sacks, 3 of them by Jay Crable. So how important is it to get teams into those long situations to force some of the mistakes? You guys forced 3 interceptions out of Bowling Green's quarterback today. How important is that?
Yeah, that's the complementary aspect of us having similar philosophies of efficiency, right? Of our defense trying to knock out the run on early downs and, force teams into second and long and obviously third and long. And then conversely, us being able to run the ball effectively on early downs and get us into favorable conversion downs. Extremely important. Yeah, the more you can get the offense in longer situations, and then when you feel comfortable getting to the quarterback with 4-man rush, that's where you can really influence the passer and create more turnover opportunities.
The post, Coach, you just mentioned how you're so proud of your staff for developing these guys.
Mhm.
Jay Crable had 3 sacks today, tying the all-time single game record here. For a guy that hasn't played defensive end that much in his career, just what can you say about his development, and then what you like from him today?
Yeah, I think it's a great reflection of the commitment he's made to our player development program, and believing in what we're trying to do and how we feed them, how we train them, and how his body's developed since he's been here, and how he's trusted our coaching and continued to grow as a player. I couldn't be more proud of a kid than him. I mean, with what he's been able to do so far early in the season is awesome. So fun kid to be around.
Evan Johnson, WOUB. Last week there was 0 sacks compared to this week with 5 sacks. What do you think the biggest difference was week to week with the pressure?
Yeah, I think this week compared to last week, it was 100% just a change in our energy and attitude. I think our guys were playing harder. They're running the ball better. I think that was a direct reflection of our ability to get to the passer. I don't think it was necessarily creative pressures and things like that. It was our guys were playing harder. They were playing more for each other.
Cam Robertson with the Athens Messenger. Coach, saw kind of similar to what Charlie asked with Jay Crable. A great game for Cam Hollabaugh as well. He's been pretty effective since, stepping up into the elevated role with Jack Freese's injury since West Virginia. Can you just talk about his performance today and just what you've thought of him since having to step up into that starting role?
Yeah, he continues to get better, and he's a kid that's just an athlete, and played a lot at a lower level at Walsh, and was a really good player there. But the thing that stood out to me when we started recruiting him was that he was a multi-sport athlete, and he was also a really good baseball player in college. So to be a 2-sport athlete, you can see a lot of that transitioning, and where he can make plays. He can make plays with the ball in his hands. It's something that we brought up when we were evaluating for an onside team of hey, who has the best hands on our team. I'm like, well, shoot, Cam was a really good baseball player in college. Let's get him on that. So smart kids, which he is, that are good all around athletes, they're going to keep getting better. So those are the kids that do great in our program and that we want to recruit.
Andrew Bowlby with WOUB. Was the plan today to get Mason involved on the offense, or that just kind of happened naturally?
Happened naturally. We have so many talented players on the offense, and the way I kind of coordinate, or we do it as a staff, it's very little. Let's specifically get things for specific guys. So much of what we do, there's RPO elements to it, there's read elements to it, there's full field progressions, where it's really based off what's the defense going to take away. What do they want to limit, and then allows other people to emerge. So if you want to try to eliminate Parker in the run game, it's going to open up some things for the tight ends. If you want to try to eliminate Chase in the passing game, it's going to open up some things for some other guys in the passing game. And then obviously I think our running backs are doing a good job running the ball physically and creating some explosive plays too. So yeah, it's not necessarily a specific week, hey, Mason's going to have a bunch of catches this week. It's, how are they going to try to stop us? And then we're going to have to adjust off that.
And then with Mason, just what can you say about his relationship with Parker and how they've kind of connected with each other?
I mean, they're both great kids. You love coaching both of them. So it's not surprising that they would have a great connection. The thing that I love most about Mason is how tough and physical he is. Every time he does catch the ball on the sideline, it is rare that you're going to see him go out of bounds. He's going to try to go find some contact and finish physically. And I love the way he finished in the end zone. It was a great job breaking a tackle and staying alive and finishing in the end zone. So, the week before, I want to say we set a record probably of number of times getting tackled at the 2-yard line. And that allowed our running backs to have 6 rushing touchdowns. So I think some guys took notice of that, all right, if I get tackled at the 2, Smitty's just going to hand the ball off to the running back, so I better get in.
Obviously turnovers are a double-edged sword, right? You guys had 5 takeaways today, but you also gave the ball to BG 4 times. So talk a little bit about both the positives and the negatives of that. Obviously, you love that you're getting 5 turnovers, but what can you maybe help a little bit on offense to limit the turnovers on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, you're always trying to limit. That's always a point of emphasis for us. There's some unfortunate moments in the game today that led to some turnovers. One was a 4th down interception, which it is what it is. You return the ball over there anyways. Then the other couple were some decision things with Parker where there are growing opportunities for him where he can do better. It was a empty protection where it's a hot protection that they pressured. The protection wasn't set to the pressure, so he needs to be able to throw hot, and didn't. And he's got to protect the football when he's in the pocket. Then the other was an RPO concept that the read kind of got a little cloudy for him. He needed to move on in his progression and, kind of tried to force it, and it created a turnover. So there's just some decision-making things that I think we can do better at to eliminate those. And he'll keep growing as we go.
Key for WAB, what did they do to keep Chase at bay today?
They did some bracket stuff with them. They were doubling him at times. They were pressing him up at times. And like I said, it's not so much that we're always just trying to go to Chase. It's we're going through the progressions of what the offense is, and it's creating opportunities for different people. So.
Coach, kind of going back to those turnovers, obviously Parker has the 2 in the second half, but he recovered nicely, gets 2 touchdowns of his own on the ground late to kind of seal that game. What did you think of just his ability to kind of shake that off and get things back under control and put those 2 scores to, take you guys to the victory?
Yeah, I think it shows his growth as a player to, one snap and clear, good or bad. I think early last year, those affected him more. So I think it is a good representation of his growth and maturity as a player to be able to move on quickly and then just execute.
Now back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. Just what does it mean for your offense to get him, moving and going like he has been recently?
I think it's not necessarily him. It's just the running game in general. Whether it's him, whether it's Duncan, whether it's Parker. The running game allows us to be really successful. It's a big part of the culture of what we are offensively, of being a tough, hard-nosed football team. And then being able to end the game with the ball in your hands. I thought that was an awesome run he had to close the game out to get the last first down. Because I'm telling him that we're going for it on 4th down if we don't get it. But he had the green light to score if he did get a first down, and if he didn't get it, we were going to be going victory. So, I think he was working his butt off to try to pop one.
MAC play starting today, you guys pick up a big win, defend your title from last year, and you take down a team that's one of the contenders for that MAC title this year. Just how big of a win is this for you guys to start off the conference play?
All conference wins are big, regardless of who it is, especially at home. You got to be able to play well at home. You got to be able to win at home in the conference if you want to do well. So they're all big.